Now my days. Only one vehicle parked here today. This is what it's about. I should stop doing that. It's about this. Well, the most important thing. And I normally would want to shave before I turn my camera on, because I have some vanity and I really don't want to be thought a pikey. It's really sad the way people use that word. I use words tongue in cheek. You see, today I had plans to move down 10 miles to another town where there's a cheaper supermarket. The one here is just, and I actually am surprised. I thought this one was like still a homespun, fair-minded little place. I'm not going to name it. Anyway, but no, the weather's nice. If there were 5 more mile-an-hour wind from the north, I may not stay here, but there's a 2 or 3 mile-an-hour wind. It's lovely. And I've been working this morning. I've left that on deliberately. Doing bits and bobs. More than bits and bobs. Having tried a... just going to turn that off. Having tried to get somebody, a classic case, into good quality counselling. And the problem with areas like this is that what really happened, I mean, it's almost like the 80s are alive in certain ways. What I mean by that is all of those sort of town, suburb people who ended up living in their towns and suburbs is gone. I have my car park all to myself. Yeah, people who sort of were into the Buzzcocks and Jilted John, Gordon's Not, all those kind of people. They kind of were in their towns and suburbs, and some of them trained as counsellors and all these kinds of worthy existences, because I'm not a cynic. Anyway, gradually over the years, 20, 30 years, they made enough money. Of course, the financialised house, in other words, money they didn't really deserve, they ended up with a chunk of money. They will never admit this, but if they sold up 7 years ago for 500 grand down south, they could buy for 300 grand here and have enough money, so they don't actually have to take life too seriously. And then they get bored, or rather their ego clicks in, and they set up as counsellors and that kind of thing here. But they don't actually have to have genuine purpose anymore, i.e. struggling to make their counselling as good as the rest. So this whole area is just filled up with really, and this is the problem there, like these kind of such smug cunts, frankly, I don't often say that word, who are doing the exact opposite of the helping they say they're doing. So they're comfortable, they take their dog walking in the countryside, they actually have nothing to do with rural existence. They wouldn't know how to use a staple remover to get staples out of a fence, or if they did, they'd turn it into some, if they were doing that, they'd turn it into some almost kind of special performance, when rural people have just got to dig the staples out of a fence when they're taking the fence down to put the fence up again. If they're reusing the wire, the sheep wire, they have to take the staples out because they have to save the money by reusing the staples. No, the income has turned that into a kind of chummy performance. Anyway, forget of that. But the point is that the quality of counsellors, be it drug counsellors, be it psychological counsellors, etc., in this whole theme park region is so appalling, because it's these, they've relocated They're so smug. They don't actually have to take life seriously. They don't actually have to care. So what? So I spent a few weeks trying to nudge somebody into some professional help on something. Forget it. Now, last night I watched a little bit of a video briefly. I'm going to find it. 600,000 views in only a few months. Bricklayer, ground worker, has £5,000 Mercedes van. Okay, he only spent £300 doing it up, and he's so happy, blah blah. Now, there's an element of, but of course they have their label. What's it called? Van life. It's just, yeah. There he is, smugly speaking of his life. Of course, his existence, his £300, £400 a day bricklaying work is also based on our financialised housing economy. And there he is. Oh, I don't need anything. Well, his income's about to fall to the bottom. Right. Because this is what it's really about. Because even in this van that he has his back kitchen with all the knives and everything. It looks good. You know, it's done for looks. My van life. Yeah, I've actually spent 125 hours on this poor woman. Standard stuff, classic stuff. No one will help. There isn't. The professional help is so fey, and just forget it, man. So I haven't got a second to spare. I don't mind that, because what true mindfulness is, this pan, I've cleaned it for about 3 months. It's my shit. Had this morning, firm every morning. What true van life is about, or rather true super simple existence, is about shepherding all of these foibles out of you. Now, had this pan in a few days since I've last used it, but you see, even looking at this guy's stuff, I mean, the idea that you'd be cooking in the summer is slightly absurd. Why? You can just, obviously you have a small one of them for hot water for coffee, etc. But otherwise you don't need hot meals. It's just a waste of time. It's all dilettante. It's all the way that people in Britain and other advanced societies, but I think we're the worst of the lot, have kind of brainwashed themselves. I mean, if I want to cook, not that I have meat very occasionally, but if I wanted to cook some chicken legs, if I really needed a protein fix, blah blah blah, I can put a couple of stones and some twigs and this thing here and have a barbecue fire within 5 minutes, safely as well, kind of anywhere. It's absurd, all this dilettantism. Point being, if you actually do something in society, I just spent 125 hours. Totally, I've spent another 3 or 4 hours this morning, despite realising yesterday that there's even more of a problem with her or the problem is a bit worse, and it's not going to work, because you need allies and solidarity and backup and blah blah blah. So I've spent so much time on her, I've got used to not being dilettante. I don't even have to bother cleaning the pan. That's oil, actually from the bottom of a tuna can from yesterday. Turning the heat on sterilises the pan, and the taste, actually, I quite like the taste of the last bit of meal in my pan. I'm only having this because I've run out of bread, run out of kind of anything other than a pack of that, and I'm going to chuck in them. It's true freedom, but it's also mindfulness, going through that barrier of, oh my god, this is a disgust barrier. Oh my god, this pan has got residue of my last meal in it. Going through that barrier, Jesus Christ, eventually, and it takes time. Even I had to go through that barrier a year ago. It's an organic, natural thing. It is so wonderfully liberating when you do it. It means I got time. I will, when the camera's turned off, I'll spend 5 minutes just smelling in the scent of these gorgeous gorse flowers, which today should be at their scentiest, because yesterday there was 10-mile-an-hour wind. Today, not much wind. It's going to be wonderful. I don't have to worry about the time of cleaning a pan. Yeah, and I actually have pretty high standards of what things should look like, because if things don't look reasonably clean and shipshape, people will judge you negatively, and that's a waste of time. When I actually do good works in the community, I give up now, totally, forever, this last one, the fact that nobody's going to follow through and just assist me a bit. That's it. That really is it. It's actually been one of my experiments from the inside. Anyway, now it's time for me to slightly reorganise this to be better set up. See, I went to go and get a tent, a backpack for somebody else. Turns out to be a waste of time because they couldn't do what they said they were going to do. So be it. I look like a wanker, but actually this stuff matters, because there's going to be, I mean, without a doubt, I'm an economics expert, might not look like it, but we have the mother of all recessions coming. So for the next 5 years, there's going to be hundreds of thousands, there's going to be millions of people like me, although with me it started 20 years ago for a good reason, getting used to far less, having to get used to making the most of their time. And the middle class is about to literally implode. There is no question about it. So, as we've known for 10 years, but that's not the point. People don't listen. That's a kind of narcissistic whatever. Anyway, I've hardly got any storage space left, so I'm not going to be able to make films until I get that sorted out.